So I have no clue what was happening to my webcam there for a second. Um, all I know is I went to go ahead and switch over to start the stream, and I had a picture of me before I threw on a shirt. So I apologize about that. Let's see what we can do today. So let me see, where did we leave off last week? We were doing, oh yeah, database stuff. So to bring you guys up to speed on what I did to fix the database here. Switch on back. Let's see. So a couple things I found out. I guess this really didn't show up in other things because I've probably already done half of these or done them a different way. Is the connection string itself has to have this particular provider. So this is what tells the data or the connector that connects us to the database. This is exactly where we need to go from here. So it says what the server is, where we need to look, has username and passwords. Makes it real nice, real easy. So that's number one. Number two, when we go into the actual look at the database, we have to make sure that exact name, see MyDB and MyDB, show up. The way I can tell is it's using the connection string. You can't add this connection string like you would if you did one manually. So when I drop it down, it still shows me the whole database like we had before. That was number two. Number three, when I go to set my database, I have to make sure I drag it from the correct connection. So if I added a connection here, even though it's pointing to the same database, I have to make sure it's all syncing up with itself. So provider name has to be correct. For the connection string here, so connection strings, we're adding this one. Make sure that your Explorer the Server Explorer has the right database linked here. And then because in order to get the tables on here that we're going to be using, I just pretty much drag and drop. That's it. And then obviously save and build. You can't forget the building. Remember what I told you guys a couple weeks ago. Building is crucial. That's pretty much what you're going to be waiting on the majority of the time whenever you're programming, is for it to compile. You may have seen jokes about it where guys are like, oh, I'm just waiting for it to compile. And you're just sitting back waiting for anything. Those days are pretty much over. It's not as long as it used to be, but it still takes a little bit. Another thing I want to touch on here is something called Nougat. No, I'm not talking about what's in your chocolate bar. Nougat is a wonderful little add-on to Visual Studio. It's automatically set up when you install it the way I showed in my one video on YouTube. Nougat allows you to find what are called libraries. Basically, people have already done a lot of the hard work for us. We're going to benefit from that by using the packages you can get for free. Now in Nougat, as you see, there's some of these here that need to be updated. That is key to make sure all your stuff is updated, as long as you're wanting to use the newest stuff. Now, like some things like Bootstrap, I can't get the newest version just yet. Here's some of the newest versions of some of the other stuff I'm using. I like to stay up to date, always use the newest stuff, because you never know what they're going to come up with. Plus, they fix bugs constantly. Bootstrap and Popper and jQuery. We'll talk about jQuery and Popper later on in the series. Those are things that run in the background that are made by, they weren't like the original stuff, so they are add-ons to the code that we're writing here. And it allows us to get away with not having to rewrite and redo code. Now you'll see a lot of PHP programmers, like some of the stuff that they have to do in order to get data to show up, like a little nice little data table or stuff. They have to go through a few hoops in order to get it to show up correctly and make sure everything aligns correctly. If they forget one character, it can throw the whole page out of whack. So we're still downloading the new stuff. I updated a good portion of them, but I want to show you guys kind of what that looked like. So let's go ahead and here's where we were previously. We had, so when you logged in, it said the person's email address. Give me a second here. Okay, so it said the person's email address here. It's clickable because we'll eventually be able to put a drop-down menu here. This menu changes as we go. I wrote some code on the back end to take the fact that we're going to be feeding a 12-digit number and we want it to come out this format. Allows us to make it very, very easy to do. So now let's actually look at the database again. So let me switch back here. Get rid of that. Remember, we created a test user. And here's our test user's info. And we use this weird user ID because, as I kind of demonstrated, there is no possibility of repeating this for another person. I don't think that it will ever get to the point where they're going to repeat or need to repeat one of these user IDs. So now what we're going to do is take this and use this user ID in order to reference another data bar table that we made here called user profile. As you see, we actually are using that user ID. Got the first name, last name, some other data that we're going to need to use later on. So how do we access this? Last week we were just putting in some test numbers and everything just to make it show up everything. Well, that's all fine and dandy. But now we have access to our database here. And this is how we connect to it. We just say dim. For those who aren't familiar with what dim is, dim actually just says I want to declare a variable in memory. It allows you to easily tell it, okay, allot some memory for this, here's what it's supposed to be. And we kind of used that last week. We did some labels, we did some strings. You can actually put these as numbers, but for all intents and purposes, we're just going to use the strings here. So I'm saying I want to make a variable called mydb as new. We're making a brand new one. MyDB data context. This basically is where our database is sitting, where it lives. Everything is done there. So I've created an instance of the database right here. Now let's go ahead and see if we can pull some data from there. What we're going to call this. We're going to set up another variable called user profile. And you're going to see why we called it user profile. I use O to denote an object, basically an entry in the database, or objects are pretty much everything. You'll see how objects play along later once we get down to changing this section right here. But let's go ahead and do what we called link code. For those of you who are familiar with SQL, it is very, very similar, but kind of mixed up. You'll kind of see it. The good thing is you can actually use link not just on databases, but you can use it, let's say if you had a group of users inside of an object. Okay, so you have a list of users. Let's say you wanted to only pull out users who were male. You can do a link statement on that, and you saw a database. It's nothing to do with a database. That's where SQL leaves off and link picks up. So let's go ahead and see what we can do here. We're going to say, okay, from our database, and we know what our table name is, right? Actually, from UC, I'm just going to set up a temporary variable here from UC in my database dot, this is user profiles. So what this is saying is you're going to use this variable to kind of manipulate things later on, but it's going to use all the entries in the user profiles. Now we only have one entry, but just to go ahead and show you here, I'm just going to go ahead and put some test info. True and false can only be 0 or 1. So as you see, we have a couple test users here. One ending in 82 is us. 81 and 84, excuse me. These two are just test users. I just want to show the fact that we're only pulling one user and one user, or one entry and one entry only, one record only. So we only want this first record. So we're saying from the records, we're calling UC in my user profiles database. The where statement is basically going to say what conditions do we want to meet. So where UC dot username. So you can kind of see how this works out. I can go to user ID here. So that's kind of how object works. Objects have what are called properties, which are these little wrenches here. They have methods, which are these little square things, cubes I think they are. Yeah, they're cubes. And normally, just for the sake of argument, all properties hold data, all methods do something. Kind of see how that works out here in a moment. So we want to do the user ID, and here's a method, dot equals. So we're saying when that user ID equals, and we're going to throw some value into these parentheses that it's going to compare here. So let's find that one. So we know what our user information is. Let's actually go back, make this a little bit easier to read. So we're going to look at, let's pull up the GUID, or that user ID for just this user. We're going to have to deal with some crafty stuff here. We're going to have to look in the membership. So membership, as you see here, I mean, each of these little icons kind of means something. It's a class. A class is an object in itself, but they can also do a lot more. So we're going to say in the membership, we want to get user. And now we have a couple options here. We can do get user. It's not going to. It's going to get whatever information gets the data source and updates the last activity for currently logged on user. How about that? I've never known that. So we're getting user. Then if you hit a dot again, oh look, we got some more information. Username, provided user key, email. Those are all properties. We've got a bunch of methods here. What we're concerned about is what they call the provider user key. That is that GUID that we use. And then I just want straight out what it is. I want it to give me the string. I don't want anything fancy. So what this is going to do is in the membership, it's going to get the current user. It's going to provide its user key, which as we mentioned before is this user ID. And it's going to convert it to a string. And the reason why we do it that way is because in programming, I used wrong. This is how the computer sees a string. But if you have, let's say, a string inside of an object, which you can do that. That's how it looks to the computer, actually. So even if we look at it, even if I were to use the same exact capitalization, we can tell there is a huge difference between these two, even though we only really care about this part. So toString basically takes and just gives you this. You'll see a little bit more about that later on. So we got a string. This is supposed to be the ID. We're going to look up for that user GUID. Okay, so we're from the records we call UC in the database user profile table, where the records with the user ID equal to our user GUID, which we've got here. Now we got to tell it what we want back. Select UC. I'm just saying select the records. Now if I try to go ahead and pull the data from this, it's going to throw me an error because this is going to create an array or a list of user profiles, but we're only asking for one. It doesn't know that you want one unless you tell it. So put some parentheses around it. We see we have some more things here. Let's see. We want one. We can do first. That would work. First or default would work. Last and default, because we only have one, so the first and last are the same thing. That would work. Single or default, that would work as well. Or as well single. We can do take, but here's how you tell. If I go to single, let's do single default because this is what I'm going to use. It's going to give us this is the keyword here, as user profile. We only want one user profile. If we do something like take, see, it's iQueryable or list of user profiles. So we don't need more than one. We just need single or default. The reason why I use the or default is because let's say if I don't get a record, it's just going to give me an empty user profile or user profile variable. So everything would just be blank. So we got that. Let's do some work with it here. So user profile, we want first name, right? First name. I'm going to be lazy, like I am. You just start seeing red lines pull up here because remember, these are objects of user profile and we're trying to put it into string. It doesn't work like that. But last name is a string. See? There's methods to madness. Okay, so FR, I think it's the friend code, if I'm not mistaken. There we go. DS is the designer code. And dream code. Okay. The rest of this we're going to keep as is because this is just putting the stuff in there. Now we still have our code splitter function here, so that's going to still be used in order to put the dashes in the code. We're going to give it a set of numbers. It's going to go ahead and return the numbers with some dashes. So let's go and save, build. Let's go and switch over to the web browser. And since this is the main page anyways, we'll just go ahead and do a quick refresh. Waiting for compile. I should find that meme and send it to you guys so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Oh, look, perfect. So, let's check. We had frame code, all ones, dream code, all threes, design code, all twos. Let's go back to our thing. Frame code, all ones, that's correct. Designer code, all twos. Dream code, all threes. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. So, as you see, we're pulling up the database. Now, what if somebody were to log in with another username? Well, that's what we're going to set up next. The sign up process is probably one of the hardest processes to kind of debug, because I mean, we want to do some cool stuff here. We want to make it so people have to be approved and everything, do some email stuff. This is going to be the fun part. We're now getting into the meat and potatoes of actually coding here. I just showed you some basic stuff. We got everything set up. So after 6 hours of, well, I'll probably put in another 2 hours. So after 8 hours, we got a basic website where you can log into it. Now you know why coders like me, when they sit down and say, oh yeah, I'll make a website, $2,000 for 4 pages. Now you know why. Because it does take a little extra time to do what you want to do. So let's go ahead and set up some registration stuff. So back to the web page. Let me log out of this guy. We've got sign up now. And as you see, sign up doesn't go anywhere. 404 error. Yay, not found. That's us. Let's see what we can do here. Switch back to some code. Let's make a new file here. Let's call this one, we already know, sign up. So we're going to do web form with master page. We want to make sure we keep that master page there. Sign up. There we go. Site master, that's our master page. There we go. We got a page. Let's build it. There's not going to be anything on it or whatnot. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of fancy stuff. Now remember, the building only compiles the back end code. So this is the front end code. Whenever you see the ASPX, that is your front end code. That's your HTML. And it compiles these back end codes right here. See how it's kind of popped up when we clicked on it? Anything in with VB, or once you get into some of the fancier stuff, DLLs, there's a bunch of others, it compiles all together. But if I only change something on the front end, like for example, I have this page right now. Let's go back. If I were to go ahead and click sign up now, it's going to take its moment in order to do the recompile. But it recompiles everything from scratch. All the pages, all the DLL files, all the back-end code, database connections, all that stuff gets recompiled after you tell it to build. So nothing. Not a darn thing up there. But if I'm only adding some HTML, it doesn't necessarily touch that DLL file or any of the backups. So let's go ahead and do header, sign up. That's it. Just wanted to say sign up. Going back, restart the page. Yeah, still takes a couple extra seconds in order to do its thing. But there's our sign up. So even though I tell you to recompile everything every time, it does make sense in the long run, and make sure that everything is caught up, everything is correct. So let's go ahead and set up some other stuff. This is the sign up page. Good. Sign up. We have that here. So what we're going to do for a sign up, we're going to have to ask them for some information, right? I am kind of lazy. So somebody's at the door. If you guys have ever gotten those Ring doorbells, They're wonderful, but every time somebody walks by your door or pulls in and out of the driveway or a huge vehicle goes down the street, it lets me know. So back to being lazy, I went ahead and went to the Bootstrap webpage here. We're going to go into components and we are doing input group. So as you can see, this looks very nice. I mean, username, URL, put some dollars in there, text area. So what are we going to need? Do we want to use small? We want default, large? Do we need some checkboxes? I mean, we have a bunch of options here. Oh, I kind of like that for the first and last name, so let's steal that. Copy. And then on the other side, I've already pasted it. A little tidbit, you'll see this happen all the time. I will actually on my keyboard hold down Control, hit the letter K, and if you look down here at the bottom, it says, hey, we're waiting for something else. And then Control D. It kind of organizes your code for you, makes it a little bit easier to see, and well, does what it needs to do. First name and last name. Now, this will not be seen by our backend code. And the reason why is because backend does get to see some of these, but it's better to use the actual controls that we have set up here. So we need two text boxes. Just going to double click it twice. There's two text boxes. Perfect. We're going to call this one TB first name, TB last name, and then we have these labels to go with it. I try to keep everything as close to what it's supposed to be as possible. And then we have class. Now class is done a little bit different. It's got its own little spice here. I keep on doing that. Just like in the back end, you have properties here. So we can do some property changes. And I found it better to use some of these versus not. Just because when it compiles and throws stuff onto the web page, it does a better job of it. So there we go. Got ourselves some text boxes and the first name, last name thing. So that's good. We got that part done. Let's see what else do we need. Well, just so you guys can see it. There we go. Oh, what happened here? Why is this not working? Let's take a look. So here's what we were writing. Input group, okay. No, nothing's showing up right. Let's see here. Just for the sake of comparison, I'm just going to go throw up what they had here. See if we come up with another one. Okay, so there's something wrong with our bootstrap here. Let's take a look. Oh, here's our bootstrap JS, so we got that. Bootstrap CSS. 3.4.1. Let's go back. Let's see what our Nougat thing said. As you seen earlier, I was kind of digging around with it. So, let's see. Nougat. Well, it says my bootstrap should be a lot higher up than that. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and drop it down to the version that says here, 3.4.1. Okay, so that's downgraded. Going back to the... Oh, you're not seeing the web page. Oh, there, that's what we're seeing. So when I did, as I mentioned before, you right click and do inspect. This is like a little debug window. And this is where I seen that we were looking at Bootstrap 3.4.1. Let's refresh our page real quick. It's still showing up like that. Let's see. 3.4.1. Now let's see if we can update that to... Oh, I don't need 4.5. I just need a 4.0, but might as well get the newest one. Oh, that's right. Can't upgrade all the way. There's still a couple of tools here that aren't ready for the newest version. Let's just double check here. Content, Bootstrap. Well, it says 4.5.0. So let's do this. Something I call a hard reset. Sometimes when you are coding and using the refresh button and everything, it doesn't always download everything. And I'll show you what I mean. Oop, wrong one. So here's our little back end thing, and here's how, well, this is pretty cool. If I go to network and then hit F5 to refresh it, not modified, so it doesn't pull it. Bootstrap CSS. Okay, so it pulled that, but it's pulling it from memory. Why is it pulling it from memory? Because it's not smart. In order to optimize your web experience, it will always try to pull it from memory. So how do we get to not do that? So what we do is we load up this little DevTools thing, we move it to the side, and then we right click to refresh. So now I can say empty cache and hard reload. So it's going to reload everything from, ooh. Now look what I did. Okay, this one's my fault. This is a guy error here. So I was trying to work on our wonderful little thing at the top of our Navbar. And I kind of was trying something. It didn't work here, but then now we're using a new version of Bootstrap. So let's get rid of the old one real quick. Come on. So that was the old one. Here's the new one. Let's see if this works. We're gonna save it, and we're only adding HTML, so we're fine there. We still have the tools open in the background, so we can do empty and reload. This is why sometimes, ooh, look at that. Something's happened. Let's do some inspecting here. We flip over. There we go. So there's a couple things that aren't the same. I know this one. There we go. That fixes that, so I can do it on this side. Fix top, good. Let's see something here. This is how I kind of do a lot of my things. I just still code from other places. Let's see if this one will work here. So I'm just going to copy this website right here. W3 Schools. This is my reference for a lot of different things. When it comes to like HTML and Bootstrap and a bunch of stuff, I kind of reference this as my go-to, where I kind of look to see if I'm doing stuff right, am I doing it wrong? I mean, I could be messing something up completely. And it has stuff for Bootstrap and HTML, and if you scroll down, it has ASP.NET, or at least it used to have ASP.NET stuff here. PHP, SQL. So this is a neat little reference website. I'll probably go to this a couple times for this broadcast, but let me go ahead and see if that particular set of code works. So I'm going to tell it to, wait, this might just be an issue of this right here. Now here's the cool thing. If you look down here where it says nav, if I add more stuff to it, it automatically updates it for you. Like I said, this thing is smart. If you had to do this coding by hand in a text editor, you would probably never get half as far as you would this way. So let's see, got that. Okay, we got the run at here. We're good. Button. I don't have. Do I have font awesome on here? So let's see. Let's paste that other navbar here. Just gonna pop it here. There's an easy way to comment out sections. If you highlight what you want to comment, it don't even have to be perfect. You can be like in the middle of the line. If you come up here and this button right here, no matter what screen you're on, you can highlight code, click this, and it should work. Sometimes it doesn't work as well, but so we have this another new little bar here. I just pasted that code in. Let's see what this one looks like on our browser here. I already got it. Refresh it for us. Oh, that doesn't even look good. What is going on? Let's go right to the Bootstrap website. Let's not even mess with this. Navbar. There we go. We got Navbar. I'm just going to grab this here because this is your basic navbar. It's going to look just like this. It's kind of like how we want it to look. Paste, save. This is going to throw me some errors. I'll explain why this one section right here is going to throw you some errors later on. So I'm just going to comment out as saved. I'm going to go back to the website, hit refresh. I need to get one of those little boards they have in order to do shortcuts to the different screens here. Is there a way to do it? I can move the order. Oh, I probably can assign it later on. I'm not worried about it. Okay, so we have something now. Still some garbage up here. Let's see what we got. We have a rogue letter A somewhere. Oh, I found it. Letter A right here. Delete that. And then I know a couple things here that I do want to do. And oh, it's still showing that, even though I got commented out. I do know I want to use fixed top. And I prefer the dark stuff. Get rid of these backgrounds here. So let's refresh that. Get that going here. Let me just make it pretty again. Oh, that is so pretty. Look at this. There we go. There we go. We got it looking good and everything. So how do we put some stuff over here? Let's see. I know we were supposed to be working on the one thing, but now we're on something else. Let's see. UL is unordered list. LI is list item. Unordered list or ordered list both have list items. What if I take this guy right here, pop him in here, and just so we have something to show him, I'm just grab this disabled one here, pop it there. Now the reason why you don't want to have additional forms on your form is because we already have one. Basically what a form is used for is to take all these buttons and inputs and everything, and when you click the button to send something, it does it. And that's all. It sends it to the web page. But we're using this ASP.NET treats the whole web page as a form. That way, no matter what you do on the web page, it's easy for you to kind of send everything back to the server side. So if you put a form inside of a form, you're negating what you're doing here. So looking back, boom, we got the disabled over here. I like it. Got the other part of the stuff over here. Let's change our name back here. So let's update this with what we already had done. We called it, where's our name at? CNH Social Club. I'm gonna copy all of this, and I'm just gonna go ahead and paste it on top of here. Nothing's changed. It's gonna still use Navbar brand. I'm just telling it to run at server so we can use the wonderful cool stuff that we can from .NET. So all these things here, gone. Let me keep them for a second. Time to do more making pretty. Drop down. I'm gonna take this part out because I might need that later on. This is what happens when you hit Control B instead of Control V. We're just gonna comment that out. Now, I didn't explain what commenting is for some of those who don't know. It's when you're telling it to not pay attention to what's in between these little brackets here. Now, when you do it on Visual Basic and for .NET, these will not even show up on the web page itself. So there is not going to be any remnants of them anywhere. So let's see. So we have the right side and the left side. So let's go back down to here. We have logged in and logged out. So I'm just going to copy this guy. And I'm going to paste them in right here. We can make some changes as we go along here. So paste. Okay. So we only need one div class, or div with the class of collapse, Navbar collapse. And I kind of have it in both of these. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that. We don't need those. But then instead, I'm just going to put it around everything. Remember when we talked last week, when you're not logged in, it's going to put out this code. When you are logged in, it's going to put out this code. Just to make it easy. Okay, so the first one should be Navbar MR Auto. Okay, we have an extra nav in here, so we'll take that out. And MR Auto. So what this stands for is margin right auto. Once we get into CSS, that will kind of be a little bit more clear what that means. So I'm just going to copy and paste that here. Now for the stuff on the left, one thing I see that we're missing is nav item. Are those? Yeah, look, see, nav item. That's probably one of the things I was missing on some of these other ones. So this one already has nav item. Just going to make this one pretty real quick. Same thing with these. Boom, boom, boom. This is the login name. We still want that like that. Oh, here's where we can use some cool stuff. So the login, let's say I want that to show up on the right hand side when you're not logged in. Now when you are logged in, give me some space here. KD, there we go. Make it pretty. So we're going to take where it was showing the login name, which is just the email address. Put it right here. See, I don't like them when they're that long. So sometimes it's easier to kind of make them smaller so you don't have to scroll over. So this will just show their login name as like a drop down. And then we can have some stuff inside it here. So let's say we don't need this one anymore. Oh, gone. We want to say log out. So we got a link button here. We already set this up last week, I believe. I'm just going to go ahead and put it inside here. So the only thing that you can do is pretty much log out. I can take this one off here. We'll just rename this link button log out. Let me see. So top part, and this is going to be in the drop down. our main navbar that lost its end tag here. Here's how cool .NET is. Look, it already knows that I have something, a tag open. You always have to have a beginning and an end. There are a couple of them that you do not need a beginning and end for, but we're going to try to use those rarely, just because we don't really want to get into trying to decode and fix those. So let's see, we refresh, let's build just so we have it. Alright, pull up the browser. Let me just go back to the main page here. So we're just going to go back to the main thing just because we're trying to make sure that this navbar works correctly. Oh, we got a whole bunch of stuff up there. Did I not comment out the... Yep, I didn't comment out part of it. We don't need this stuff here. Leave anything else? No, that should look good now. Let's go back. I've already refreshed it. Now people wonder why I make sure I have toys. The one I've been working on today is my 6x6. I posted one to the channel where I did a 3x3, and that wasn't even the quickest I can do it. So let's see what we got. Oh, it's getting there. Not quite what I was looking for. Let's go back to that W3 schools real quick and look at their code. I'm gonna kind of can't really do a side by side with this. Is this what we were using? Just for the sake of argument, I'm just gonna. No, we weren't using this one. We were using the one on Bootstrap's website. There we go. Let's see. So we got the Navbar stuff. We got our Navbar brand. That's correct. This button. What this particular button is for is when you are getting into mobile programming. Because the site will be viewable on a cell phone, but you don't. If you have like a long nav bar, you want to make it smaller. It'll be like you should a little icon. It'll do a drop down instead. So that's right. So we have the collapse, good. Navbar and right. Nav item. Oh, here we go. Nav link. On the drop down, it just has let's see, drop down menu. I need to make sure I have drop down item on my drop down item. Okay, so we have a bunch of items inside that. Is that correct? Yep. And I stole this from the other one. So let me refresh and save this. I just reiterate what the classes are for is in Cascading style sheet, CSS. Oh, look, almost. Pretty much in CSS, instead of having to say, okay, this button needs to have these borders and or this radius in the corner and these borders and this color and this style font, and when you roll over, it does this. When you click it, it does that. Instead of having to define that for each and every button. Oh, you're not even on the right page. Huh. How about that? Okay. So CSS or class is so like first button. See how every little thing it does, like the corners, the borders, the doing that little puff out when you click on it. That's all done in the style sheets in the classes. So we have to figure out why this link button isn't working right for us. So let's go ahead and inspect. Class. Oh, I'm looking the wrong one. That's why. That dirt moment. So I went ahead and made sure I had the right class for the logout. Oh, no, that should be a nav link. Let's log in real quick. Okay, that works right. That's why it's not working right. Because that's some weird off-the-wall code here. I'm just copying and pasting the classes. I just copy this to here. Save that. Let's refresh our page. So as some of you may know, me and my brother, we have an unhealthy obsession. We are part of a group of elite people who do this to houses. Let me go to the better part. So this is our little side projects and everything. This was a couple years ago, but I just got a message from one of the guys who is really big into it, Ron Howard, and he just gave me the thumbs up to go ahead and post a stream on his group. So thank you, Ron. Look, we got login fixed. Login's fixed. And it works. Look, haha. But we're not doing login, we're doing sign up. Well, let's put a sign up on that side just in case they're in the about and they want to sign up. They can do that too. So go back. We're just gonna, there we go. It's called sign up. Sign up. Save. So that's good. That's ready to go. Let's go back to our sign up page here. This all should be working now. Let's get rid of this old one. And I'm going to add a little bit of CSS because I want these to have a little space between them. So we're going to say whenever we see the class input group, the margin bottom 10 pixels. So what's margin? Oh, I am so sorry. I didn't even see the questions that were in chat here because I had a different thing pulled up when I was trying to fix the camera. So, one of the questions, so the provider name is always attached to Microsoft software, or is it just SQL in general? That was back on the web config. It's it's Microsoft, yes, but basically what this says is we're defining this string, which this is basically how the database will be connected to. And this is pretty much the set of parameters that's defined here. So when the system looks at this string, it says, oh, this is a SQL connection. I know what this stuff means. So, I'm not even on the right... Why am I doing this to you guys? So, in here, this provider is just saying, it's just helping the computer understand what the rest of this is. Like here, we have the SQL role provider. So it knows exactly what type of role provider to use. There's several different kinds. I mean, SQL is not the only database out there. You have MongoDB, you got Pregress, you have Oracle, MySQL, MS SQL, and that's just to name the first 5 I can come off with. So this is pretty much saying, okay, this is a Microsoft SQL client string. That's what it's kind of doing there. The next question, is there a limit of variables that we can attach to dim command? Dim is pretty much every time you set up a variable, every time you set up an object, every time that you want to set up something to use, you will most likely use a dim. There's some situations where you don't need to, but you will always use a dim. That's just basically telling it to open up that particular variable in memory, and let's see what Microsoft says. The dim statement. It declares and allocates storage space for one or more variables. Pretty much what I've been saying. Microsoft has this wonderful thing called Microsoft Docs. Wrong button. If you use only thing I did was just search. But when you see docs.microsoft, you know this is directly from Microsoft itself. And I mean, there's a lot more you can do with the dim command than just declare variables. And there's also other options you can do that you would replace dim with because it assumes dim. Dim variables are getting on my nerves. I'm sorry, bad joke. What's the importance of front-end code versus back-end code? Is front-end going to be visible on the page? Well, here's the way you have to look at front-end code. This is basically the HTML. This is your layout. This is your format, where things are located on the page. Your back-end code, where are we at here? We're on sign up. There it is. This basically says what your page is going to do when something is clicked on, when something data is sent back. What do we want to do? What do we want to do when the page is first loaded? Do we need to pull stuff from a database beforehand? If you remember back earlier, we did this. When the page was loading, we had to pull this information from the database. It's not automatically there. So basically what the backend code does, it's multifunctional. Whenever the page is loaded, you can do stuff. Whenever the page is unloaded, you can do stuff. I mean, let's see here. Default offense. There are so many things. Like, you can catch the page in different parts of it setting itself up. Like, if you want to get it before it even tries loading the code, you can do initialize, or when initialization is complete, or when the load is complete. I mean, you have so many different phases you can do here. And then all the buttons that we have, all your text boxes, all your data that you're putting in, the backend code is what allows you to manipulate that. And you'll kind of see that as we're going through the sign up stuff. So getting back to sign up, input group, I wanted to just have a little space between it and the next one. And let me see, does this have... No. So there's that. So that will give us just a single text box on there. So what else do we need? Let's look at our, where's our database? So I know for my user profiles, I want first name, last name, friend code, designer code, dream code. Okay, so we got all that stuff here. So let's do some of those. We also need to get their email and also ask them a security question as well. So let's see. Going back to Steel Code Land, aka the internet. Input groups. We're probably going to just use stuff like this with a little beginning part on it. We're not doing anything fancy. I'm just seeing if there's any other option or any other things we can or can't do. Well, they just added that. Choosing files. Okay. Let's go back to the top, because that very first one is pretty much what we're going to be using for the remainder of these things here. So ask first name, last name. What else do we need? We need email, friend code, designer code, dream code, paste it a couple times. Okay, so we do want privacy on all those. Good. Security questions. So that's going to be a drop down. So no. There we go. This one right here. And we're going to pop this here. Control B again. And then we're just going to need just a basic one for the answer. So that's pretty much a good portion of what we're going to need. Let's try to drag and drop, get some stuff on the form here so we can kind of see where we're at. Let's work through some of these real quick. So email, friend code, dream code, designer code, so make designer or friend code public. Now the way they do their checkboxes here is they have the checkbox in the front and then a text box. I don't want a text box there. I don't want them to be able to type in anything, but we can use the text box to display some text here. Okay, so we got dream code, designer code. Right. And, well, that's a start here. These IDs, we don't need those because we're not really doing anything on the client side just yet, so we can sign those if we need them. Just trying to get all the squigglies off the screen. I hate having all those squigglies there telling me that there's stuff that doesn't match up. we don't have an ID, we don't need those either. Alright, let's build it. Let's go over and see what we have. Oh, look, some nice stuff. Username. No, we're going to fix that. One of the things I don't like about using this particular set here is the fact that it doesn't keep everything lined up. I mean, it does. It's not wrong that it's not lined up, but it can be a little bit better. So let's do some digging here. Let's pull back up our code thing. So we're looking at this very front portion. Let's see. If we right click on one of those and do inspect, it gives us right there. So let's make our own. Since we know this is called input group text, let's make a new class. It's called input group text. This is our own. What if we do the width at 150 pixels? Looks good. 10 pixels looks good, doesn't it? What do you guys think? I don't kind of like how that first name last name thing is, so let's change that. So we can grab this little bit of style. This is why I like doing stuff in Chrome. You can just copy what you've already worked on. Pop it right in here. There we go. I want a separate text box for last name, so we're just going to put last name there. Perfect. Make this last name. Right. What else can we do real quick? Okay. First name, last name, they have a little. All we need to change these text boxes over anyways right here. Let's switch those over to stuff that the backend code can read here. Watch this. Boom. Boom. Now .NET is very, very smart. It's not going to let you use the same text box, the same name. So text box. What is this one? This one is email. And check this out. We're going to even make it simpler. We're going to change the text mode. Now in .NET, you can do text modes on the text boxes to make it easier, so you don't have to tell it, hey, I want to go ahead and try to do emails or colors or dates or anything. It takes a lot of the what we call validation out of it. You don't have to validate anything anymore. You just have to make sure that they have an email. Nice, right? Next one's friend code. We're going to just clean this up a little bit too. Email, TB email, good. Get rid of that, and get rid of that. Oh, I need to pop this over here anyways. There we go. So this one will be, I'm just going to call it TB friend. TB Dream. TB Design. Always keep them easy to remember. I have my own little scheme that I do sometimes when it comes to labeling things. But friend codes, let's do a placeholder. Placeholders are something that are not done on the ASP.NET side, but they're done on the web browser side. So I can tell it exactly how I want you to enter in the codes. Now, you're probably wondering, aren't you converting this over to just a 12-digit number? Yes, I am. But when you actually look at the friend codes, they're always grouped that way. It makes it a little bit easier. What else can I do? Okay, we got that. Our next thing would be, do we want to make friend code public? Okay, that kind of looks fine, these ones. Okay. Well, let's make these a little bit bigger. Just fill up some space. So let's inspect that. I just right click and hit inspect. There it is. And I know from past experience, where can I put this? It's going to be in the way no matter what I do. So, text boxes. Those use the form control class. So let's make our own again. I don't want one like that. Oh, well, we'll go with it. Dot form dash control. Now, with past experiences, we have to do max width. Oh, look, I'm doing caps and everything. We'll do 500 to start. So what max width is pretty much does is it says, okay, at a maximum, how big do I want to let these things get? And the reason why it's important to declare or say that we want the max width to be larger is because if I didn't have that, there is one here. Minimum width. Okay, so we got a min width. Max width 200. So here, or 280? Yeah, 280. Let's see. So I scrolled up. Let's say if I just did a width, right? Okay. Okay, what's going on? Why can't we change the width? It's because of the fact that later on down the road, they're setting a max width, so we cannot adjust anything else. In fact, it's not even letting me adjust it like that. So we just need to make a max width of, what can we use? 300? 350. 350. Let's go with 350. Yes or no, I'm not copying all the codes here. I'm gonna delete that one. We just need that. Make it pretty. There we go. Told you I'll be using that one a lot. So, what does this one look like? Drum roll. Can't drum roll tonight worth of crap. Oh, wait, what? It's fine. This is part of doing the programming. So let's go ahead, do a full screen, inspect. What did I do wrong? Form control. Where's mine? Oh, there it is. Oh, ha. Didn't anybody catch that? I deleted the 1 because it was 351 and then put the 0 back. Welcome to the world of programming. So, there's an ongoing joke that took you 3 hours to type a semicolon. When you get into JavaScript and we start doing coding there, it's not like the code that we have in VB where if you put a new line, it assumes that's the end of that command. You actually have to put a semicolon. Well, the newer browsers assume that's a new line, it's a new command, but the semicolon normally tells the computer it's done. That's the end of this line. Move on to the next one. So we got that fixed. Now what do we need to do? You know, we have to do the thing with the thing. I had the wrong code in there, so I had to fix it here. Text box, let's do some security question here. Paste, there we go. Make pretty, there we go. So we have security question. Good. Now let's put a drop-down box here. Now, ASP.NET has some sweet features to it, and I'll kind of show you what I mean. We're going to do a drop-down list. I'm just going to name this drop-down security question. Oh, I'm just going to do question. We already know it's security. There we go. We know we need to pull the class over, so let's do that. There we go. And we really don't need this. Gone. There we go, and security answer. Let's be lazy and grab those text boxes here. Boop. Boop. Don't need a placeholder on this one. This one, text box answer. So we got that done. Now let's look at these check boxes. Those are going to be so easy. Well, these inputs right here, these are just for show. So I don't care about converting those over. Check boxes are so easy. So tools, checkbox. We don't have any classes or anything special. We can get rid of that. So we're going to do CB friend. Copy, paste, and paste. CB. This is what? Dream code, so CB dream and CB design. So you kind of see I can set up a text box called TB design with the checkbox that goes with it, CB design. Pretty neat. So we'll save that. Let's see what we look like here. Build it up. Let's switch over. Still refreshing. Look at that. The security questions could be made a little bit bigger. We'll worry about that here in a second. Now the placeholders, this is a neat little thing. If you click here, look, placeholder disappears as soon as you start typing. And we can even do one better. On these, we know that we have a max number of numbers of 12 numbers, 2 dashes, 14. So let's go ahead and set max width on that real quick. So let's go back up here. This is the friend max length. That just caps it off at a certain number of characters. Doesn't matter if they're symbols, numbers, letters. Okay, so we got those. What do we do next? Security questions. Let's populate some security questions. Now, I already have a database full of security questions. Our table. Let me see if I can get access to it from here. For those who don't know, if you had Google Plus account back before they got rid of Google Plus, you might be entitled to part of a lawsuit. They're being sued because of a bug that was in the system, and it's crazy. But you can get some money. Free money. Yay! Okay. So I'm loading up SQL Server. So to answer your question, what is the size of a pixel? What is the default pixel size for stuff? Oop, wrong password. Why do I keep on typing the wrong password? There we go. So a pixel. Pixel is one dot on the screen. If you can see this the little dot on the eye right here, that's, for all intents and purposes, the size of one pixel. That's how big it is. Is it that big? No. Now, the issue you're going to have with spacing stuff by pixel, and I've ran into this before. I actually have a virtual karaoke site where if I'm doing everything by the pixel, okay, no problem. It's exactly where it's supposed to be. What if my screen size is like that? It throws everything off. It just gives a small little space in the middle instead of a bigger space. So there's other ways to do it, but when you're just doing spaces between stuff, this is 10 pixels worth. And that's why I kind of showed you guys to use the inspector, because I can go ahead and say, okay, we have this one of these groups. I can go in and say, oh, margin bottom, I want that to be bigger. So I can always make adjustments later on, but you'll see more about how pixels and everything works. Okay, this is so random. Check this out, guys. My Ring just decided, oh, look, I'm going to go ahead and start showing you what the neighbor's doing, waiting out. Yep. I told you, these things are cool, but in another sense, sometimes cumbersome. So we are going back to here. So now I already have a table in my karaoke manager called security questions. I'm just going to go ahead and copy it over here. So Let's see. So just copy or paste? No. It wouldn't be that easy, would it? No. And you wouldn't think that you can drag and drop it, right? No. So let's just the hard way. So security questions has, oh look, 2 columns. Question ID and a varchar of 1 kilobyte. So let's do it ourselves. Oh, you guys weren't even looking at that. Wrong screen. So I was just trying to drag and drop it here. Yeah, it doesn't give you any of the options to make things easy. So we're going to create our own. So we're going to do new table. Security question ID. We're going to call the table security questions. And we're just going to call this one question. We did varchar 1 kilobyte. No nulls. Let's make this a decimal since that's, even though I know we're not going to have billions of questions, that would just be ridiculous. We're still going to keep it so we keep everything straight. So we got the identity that's set there, the key questions. We're good. Let's update it. Update database. Good. We got our own table here. Look at this. Watch. Refresh. Boom. Security questions. Has no questions. Well, I'm going to get crafty. I do know that I can select them. Select top 100 or 1000. Give it a second to do its thing. Right. I'm just going to copy these questions. 99 of them. That's decent. Oh, that didn't work as well as I thought. Here's where non-programming tools come in handy. When you look at it, it has this other field that needs filled in. So if I go ahead and just paste it in the second column, then highlight both columns. What? Look at that. It's a neat little programming trick. Because there's a column here, even if you're going to leave this column blank and it's going to set up its own number, you still have to account for the column when you're copying and pasting. So we got security questions. We already defined the table. We don't need that. We now have to go ahead and add it to what we're allowing the code to see as the database. So here's our database thing. Just going to drag, drop, bada bing, bada boom. Where these are positioned doesn't matter. You can have these on top of each other, staggered. It doesn't matter how they look. The designer itself can be as messy as possible. The code behind will always be the same. So we got that, and then let's go ahead and let's do some backend code. So, as I kind of mentioned before, I always do a if is post back. Because you always want to capture, is the page loaded for the first time, which is post back will be false, or did they click on something and now you're grabbing a page for a second time? That's what post back is. I kind of explained that last week, but just wanted to go over it again so you guys kind of know what that is. Keep it fresh in memory because you're going to be using that sort of stuff later on. You're going to use it a lot. That's all there is to it. So let's see here. So, is postback. What do we want to do? If it's not the postback, this is the first time they're loading up the page. What do we want to do? Wait, we just set up a whole table full of security questions. If I load the page up the first time, I just click on the address and hit enter. Just enter and like that. Yeah, I'm weird. There is no security questions. Oh, you guys can't even see the drop down. Yeah, there. No security questions whatsoever. Why? Because we didn't tell it to do anything. Now, we can sit there. Let's say if we only had 4 security questions or a small amount. We can go into the drop-down list and say, okay, list item. The text is what's your mama's baby's daddy's uncle's name. And well, when we set this up, we're going to also set that as the value as well. So value, too many quotes. There we go. Now if we go ahead and refresh that, build our thing and go over to the code, over to the web page. Once it's done doing its thing, I swear this stream we'll probably sit here for half the stream and do just waiting for this. Does it do a drop down here? No, for some reason it doesn't show the drop down when I do the one view. That's weird. But what if I want a lot more? So let's go back to the backend code. Let's get rid of that one that we just entered. We don't need that. Boom. We got a database. Let's connect to our database. Dim mydb as new mydb data contacts. Reason why I called it mydb, because it's so easy to type 4 letters and get pulled up. And if you were to type just my, as you see, there's only a few things that begin with my. You have my base, my class, my services. This one is one we created in the database. So let's see. Let's set up another variable here. We're going to call this one L questions. Or L quest there. So a list of questions. So from Q. So from the records we're calling Q in mydb.security questions. Now the good thing is we don't need to do a where statement because we want everything. If you don't put a where statement, it assumes return everything. That's what we want here. But we're going to do order by, what do we want to order by? We want to order by the question. Do we want to order by the ID number? Let's do it by the question. So Q dot question. Now what do we want to return? We want to return just the Q's. So everything. So I didn't put any parentheses around it. I didn't do dot single dot anything because we want more than one thing here. Okay. So now let's go ahead and take this set of data that we're now calling LQuest and let's send it over to that dropdown. So DD for dropdown and Bastion. I didn't get that. Let's fix it. If it was my own code, I'd just go ahead and just go with it. But question. There we go. And it's changed instantly. So DD question. There we go. Dot. The first thing we're going to do is the data source. The data source is equal to LQuest. So we're taking the data from LQuest and putting into the data source of the question. So data source is just where you dump the data that you just pulled. Now you could have set the data up in code, you could have pulled it from a web service, it doesn't matter how you got it. But now we have to tell it what to do with that data. As you remember earlier when we did the one manually here on the HTML code, we kind of have to tell it what field goes where. So dd question we're going to do data value field. So remember, we have two columns, name, security, question, ID, and question. Honestly, I don't care what the ID number is. That's just so if we need to change something later on, like a misspelling or add something else or delete one because it's offensive. We're in that sort of stage. We can do it, but we want the question field. It's not my day. There we go. To be the value, because we want to use that. We're going to stick it into membership somewhere else. You'll see how that works out. And then we also want the data text field to be the same thing. So here's the difference between the text field and the value field. The text field is what you're going, actually, just as an example. Let me be quick about this. There we go. So if I were to put the value as the ID number and the text field as the question, when I go to ask it later on, another subroutine, I'm just going to do it here. I can do dd.selected value, and that will give me the security question ID. But we don't care what the ID is because the question is what the question is. So let's just put it back to question. Then after I tell it exactly what to put where, we have to do what's called a data bind. This will be important in other things that we do, like when you get to doing tables and grid views and stuff like that. That'll be very important. Okay, so let's review. We pulled the database, pulled the data out of the database we needed, put that data into the drop-down, told it what to put where, and told to go ahead and make that control. And you're going to see how this works here in a second. Now, I could sit there and step through the code. You're not going to see anything fancy. We'll be stepping through a lot of code here later on. But let's go ahead and refresh. Let's go back to the web browser. I'm going to go back in time to see how long we spent just waiting. Oh, you guys can't see it. There we go. So now, oh look, who's your childhood hero? I got that one twice. I can actually go in and delete it, so that's good. So here's all of my questions. I didn't have to type any of those out. It's all right here. And then I just type in my answer. Let's make this one bigger too while we're at it. This is probably going to be the last thing we do here tonight. Do you guys have any other questions before we wrap things up here? Oop, forgot the comma. Or the dash. Go. So there are also that kind of answer the question I was asked earlier about the pixels. There are other things that we can use, like what's called an EM. How big is an EM? Kind of see it's a little bit bigger of a chunk. But the good thing is about an EM, if I were to make this smaller, it would actually kind of... Well, that's actually said as a max there. That's because I put in the actual width of 350. There we go. It's just a different way of doing it. But remember how I talked about earlier? How if your screen gets too small, this is about the size of a cell phone screen. You just a little drop down instead. How's it look when we're logged in? There's our logout. Boom. Done. Pretty nice, right? So just to give you guys a little look, this is actually a live website that I've been working on here. So let me see. achn.guidecool.com. So I can actually pull it up on my website or my cell phone. So guys, it's not just I'm showing you on the screen. Yep, there's our thing. We can do login. You can't really see it that well. There's our login stuff. Let me log in real quick. See? So next week, here's my plans. Finish up getting the user sign up. I'll probably be all of next week's here is just go ahead and finish doing the user sign up. We're going to learn how to create a user. We're going to also learn how to send email as well. Because what I want to do is if a user signs up, they're not just going to get access to the website. No. If you've ever signed up for like Facebook or something, the next thing it asks you to do is please check your email and click the following link that will go ahead and allow you to activate your account. Now, some of my karaoke people know that I didn't work right for some silly reason. No problem. I do have a foolproof plan this time of how to make it work, but at least it's a little bit easier than not. But we're going to work on that, is making sure that you can get signed up. We're going to add them to the membership. We're going to set them up in some roles here, possibly. Another thing is we can put some security on our web pages here. Let's say somebody did try to, and I'll show you guys this one real quick. Let's say if I'm logged in, and I manually type sign up. Signup. S-I-G-N. It gives me the sign up form, but I'm logged in. What is going on here? Real simple. Since we do have roles set up, this works really nice. Let me grab the code here real quick. In our web config, I'm going to create a section down here for locations. So this is saying, okay, here is the location we're looking at. So we're looking at signup.aspx roles to allow. Now here's where we're going to get pretty crazy. Oop, you guys aren't even seeing what I'm seeing. Security is going to be awesome. Yes, security is awesome. Email is cool. So I just went ahead and made some space here. We're doing the sign up. I'm looking it up right now, just make sure I'm telling you guys the right thing. Okay, so we are going to say here is we're going to allow question mark. Deny everybody else. So these are called wildcards. So question mark just means anybody who's not logged in. Star means anybody who is logged in. Why they just make it easier? No clue. So going back to the web page, okay? So let's go back home. This will just pull the new stuff so it knows what's going on. Okay, no problem. We can go home. We can go contact. No problem. Good. Oh, cannot contain question mark character. What did I do wrong? Or did somebody tell me something wrong? Let me take the deny out here. Yeah, this is kind of like what we were doing here. Locations will allow only star. Oh, there, yeah, this says something else. Say, well, actually, better yet, let's not put it in here just yet. Let's put it in that web page here. Doesn't matter if it's post back or not. So if page.user, why am I in caps? Dot identity is authenticated, then response. That's response is very much what we're sending back to them. Redirect back to home. Let's try it. So then, yeah. What did I do wrong? I didn't build it, did I? I didn't build it. Ha! Again, this is why building is important. So, sign up. Still building. Still building. It's built. So, folks, next week, again, we're doing the rest of the sign up page. We're going to do some emailing. We're also going to probably write the page that'll take that email in and approve the user. Yeah, see, no matter how many times I try it, I can even be silly, put a link there and it won't work. But yeah, that's it, guys, for this week. So what did we do this week? We went ahead, connected to the database. We set up this little bit of stuff pulling from the database. We fixed our Navbar here. Now it's looking great. It's doing what we want it to do. I mean, this looks awesome. It's only taken us 8 hours, maybe 9 hours to get to this point, but still, I mean, we got that done. We got part of the sign up page done. Yeah, it looks good here. I just need to refix this, make sure it goes out. That's no problem. I'll fix that here. But next week, we're going to be adding the sign up button. We're going to do the email once they do get signed up to authorize, make sure they're not a robot. We're going to do some back end verify, make sure that they did type a name in. They did type a valid email. Has the email been used before in another account? If it has, we'll tell them, hey, look, it's already been used. Just go ahead and do the password reset. If their friend code or dream code or designer code's been used before, don't let them sign up. If they didn't put in a security question, don't let them sign up. So that's what we're going to be doing next week, is getting a new user added to our thing. Until then, guys, peace out. It's 404 not found.